Hi there. If you clicked on this video thinking it was the old Jerma video and you just want to go and see that instead, I've put it in the info box in the top right. It's also near the top of the description and it's in the pinned comment. If you haven't seen that video before, I'd recommend it because it gives more context to this one, but you don't need to watch it. I'm going to do a really quick recap of it. Take a look at the timeline for this video and you can see I put timestamps for everything that this video contains, every section, so you can kind of skip around to things that you're more interested in. I'd recommend watching the whole thing in a row, but of course I would. I made it. Anyway. I'm going to go and do the actual video now, okay? Cool. Seven years ago, in 2014, Jerma985 uploaded a YouTube video called The Sawmill Scientific Method. For the first 2/3 of this video, he watches the point on KOTH Sawmill and counts how many people walk into the sawblade in a single round.
You get 1 point for every person that walks directly into the saw.
The last third is him on a server with a bunch of guys who are all in on the joke and they're trying to stop the saw blade by any means possible, like stacking on it, or I think someone Ubers on it at some point. Typical old Jerma shit.
Yeah, how are you doing that?
Now, when I was watching this as a kid, I was 15 when this video came out. I'm 21 now. How insane is that, by the way? I was always way more interested in the bit about how many people died on the saw blade. I was kind of like uncomfortable with the fact that Jerma didn't investigate this further and see how many people would die on the saw blades if you watched enough rounds. I didn't get why he wouldn't do it. I thought it was such an interesting idea. So, 7 years later, I did it myself. And now that I've done it, I understand why he didn't do it, by the way. It's fucking boring. The way Jerma did his counting was super simple. He got into Sawmill, he joined the spectator team, and he hovered around the point and watched the saw blades. Since he did that though, like 7 years ago, TF2 has changed. Nowadays you can't join spectator mode on official Valve servers. You might be saying, use the replay function, which would have been a great solution, but you can't use the replay function in Valve servers either. Now you might be saying, well, just don't do it on Valve servers, do it on a community server. But the thing is, you go on one of those and there's either all talk enabled and everyone is trying to trade,
Turn it up, dude.
or it's a server where if people aren't active for long enough they get controlled by AI, or you go there and there's a guy with like 300 annoying unusual effects and like golden pan and a bunch of stupid weapons because he spent $200 of his mother's credit card money to get donation perks on the server. What I'm saying is, while a community server would have been a really easy thing to hop onto and watch everything and record it, it's not really representative of the average game of TF2, necessarily. If you're playing TF2 as a newer or more casual player, you're gonna press casual and you're gonna get into the game through that. You aren't gonna be using the archaic, fucking ancient looking community server list. So what did you do, you might be thinking? Well, I clicked casual, I disabled all of the maps except for KOTH Sawmill, and I waited until the queue put me into a game. From there, I switched to Spy, equipped the L'Étranger, the Cloak and Dagger, and a bunch of cameras, walked into the Sawblade room, and sat down on these logs here. And then I just watched the fucking game for 45 rounds. It sucked. I did end up getting kicked a few times, but overall, I got away with it. I decided I would count rounds instead of full games. That way, if I got added to a server and there was a minute left on the clock on round 1, I could just play normally and then go back into cameraman mode once that round ended and the next one began. So another thing about Valve matchmaking that you're probably really aware of is bots. At least right now, there's a lot of problems with bots, which are automated players that would come into the server and shoot you in the head. I also considered anybody using aimbot to be a bot, although that only happened once, and it was a soldier with a direct hit.
Oh! I got caught out!
Since bots are such a big problem, I needed a way to deal with them. If a bot joined the enemy team, I would stand in spawn and use my killbind over and over again, using the spectator mode that I get from dying to watch the saw blades. I would repeat this action over and over again until the bot was kicked or the round had ended. If a server became totally infested with bots, that's when I would disconnect from the server. So now you know how I was actually doing the counting. I need to tell you what exactly I was actually counting this whole time. I didn't count deaths in pre-game or in the humiliation phase of a round, because a lot of the time the behaviour that players exhibit in these situations is often contradictory to how they actually usually play. There were 4 main things that I counted whilst watching: what class the player who died was, what team they were on, the reason they died, and the sawblade they died on. There's the red sawblade, named so because it's the closest to red spawn, and the blue sawblade, named that for the same reason but blue. Deciphering what class they were on was accomplished by looking at the screen, same with what team they were on. The hardest bit was deciding the reason that they died. I came up with 4 categories of behaviour. Blindness. The behaviour in which someone walks into a saw blade because they simply didn't see it. They might have walked into it backwards, sideways, been chased into it, or even acknowledged the saw blade but just misjudged how close it was to them. If it seemed like a lack of perception for any reason, it was put to blindness. Pushed. The behaviour in which someone's collision with a saw blade was not due solely to their own bad timing or lack of perception. They were air blasted, launched by an explosive or a charge, or even pushed or stopped by bullet damage in such a way that they landed on a saw blade. If I witnessed a death that likely would not have occurred if an enemy had not caused it, then it was marked down as pushed. Suicide. This was when somebody, in the middle of a round, intentionally stood in the path of the saw blade and allowed it to kill them for one reason or another. They might have even ran into it on purpose. It could be hard to determine if it was accidental or not, so I only really used this when I was for sure certain that the person who just jumped into the saw blade meant to jump into the saw blade. And the final category is... This is when I'm watching someone do something and I can't figure out what the fuck they were thinking. Like, they do something stupid or weird and just like... You know what I mean, right? When you see like someone on your team and you go, What are you doing? What do you do? What is this person do? Am I the only one who can see this guy? That's when I use this category. If you've played this game long enough, then you know the situations I'm talking about. Now, if somebody died off screen, I could still determine most of the information that I needed. I could tell from the kill feed in the top middle of the screen what team they were on and what class they were. And when someone dies on a saw blade for the first time that round, the saw blade changes from a clean texture to a bloody one. By taking note of which saw blade was clean and which saw blade was dirty prior to the off-screen death, and the state of the saw blades after the off-screen death, I could often determine which saw blade they died to. This means that for the majority of off-screen deaths there is no recorded behaviour or reason to why they died, and as such off-screen deaths are simply not counted when I am tallying up and comparing the reasons for a saw blade death. Speaking of tallying up, I'm finally just going to get to the bit that you probably are most interested in, which is the results. Thank you if you stuck through the whole thing, and you know what? Just for you, here's a little secret. For when I was a kid, I went on World of Warcraft, and I went on my mum's account, and I was playing a game with my aunt, and I threatened to kill my uncle at the time, who was her boyfriend. So he wasn't really my uncle, but he was her boyfriend. And then when she freaked out about it, obviously, and told my mother, and she came back, and I blamed the babysitter. That's a true story. That's a true story, by the way. Oh, there's not a day goes by I don't think about that. So here we are, 45 rounds of KOTH Sawmill later, and I have all the interesting numbers right here. Out of all of those games, a total of 126 people died to the saw blades, leading to an average of 2.8 saw blade deaths per round. That implies that if you were to go and play a bunch of Sawmill, you'd usually see around 2 to 3 saw blade deaths every round. Out of those 126 deaths, 60 of them were on the red saw blade and 66 were on the blue saw blade. Almost a 50-50 split. It seems there's nothing particularly dangerous about either saw blade, which makes sense. Out of 126, 75 deaths were on red team, and only 51 were on blue, which is weird. You'd think it'd be more even, but that's 59.5% red and 40.5% blue, almost 60-40. So if you die to a saw blade, there's a decent chance that you're actually on the red team for some reason. Out of every class, from most to least likely, is Pyro, Scout, Medic, Demo, Spy, Soldier, Engineer, Heavy, and Sniper. Which I think makes sense. You know, Pyro, Scout, Medic, Demo, you're all kinda in the middle of the thing. You're all fighting. Medic, you have a lot of things to think about. You're probably running into the saw blade without noticing. Pyro's getting air blasted by other Pyros because they don't want to hold down mouse 1 on you for 20 years. You know, Scouts running around really quickly, just running in by accident. And Demo Man, you have to be there pressuring the other team and you're gonna slip at some point, you are. Spy also makes sense because he's, you know, usually a newer player. As you can see, there's quite a big difference between how many spies died and soldiers, engineers, heavies, and snipers. Brand new players probably don't play those classes that much, and when they do play Sniper, they're probably staying out of the way. There's no real reason for any of these guys to be on the point for any extended period of time, so it makes sense. And just for fun, 96% of all deaths were humans and 4% were bots. Yeah, actually bots died. 5 bots died. 1 soldier bot, 2 heavy bots, and 2 sniper bots. I didn't make a pie chart for that because, like, I don't know. It would be such a small sliver. But you can imagine it. Oh, what a cool pie chart you just imagined. But the most important and probably interesting info is this next bit. The reason. But before we can get to that, there were a total of 25 off-screen deaths, including 2 spies who were invisible, so I couldn't tell what their death was anyway. Those deaths could not be counted, so they have to get removed. That leaves us with 101 deaths, which is quite funny. Of those deaths, the most common reasons were blindness, unexplainable question mark weirdo behaviour, being pushed, and then finally suicide, with only 3%. If you're getting pushed into a saw blade, it's most likely to be an air blast pushing you, then the bullets from a minigun, and then your own poor charging mixed with a scattergun, a demo man's pipe, and a soldier's rocket all tied up for the least most likely reason to get pushed. The demo man charging and scattergun thing happened because a guy charged, and right as he charged he got shot with a scattergun and just flew into a fucking saw blade. It was hilarious. So, if you're playing Sawmill and you die on a saw blade, it's statistically likely that you're a red pyro walking into the blue saw blade because you didn't see it properly. The thing that would make the least sense is if you were a blue sniper taking your own life using the red saw blade. Of course, a good handful of you watching this are probably going to go onto Sawmill right now, pick sniper, wait till you get auto-balance to blue team, and then do exactly that just to prove me wrong. But hey, for the time being, that's correct. Before I upload this video, that's correct. Now, before I end this video, I just want to let you all know that I'll be putting together a big video of every single match that I recorded, and including in the description and pinned comment of that video, all the notes that I took. So if you want to go and check my maths, you can. I'll leave a link to that in the description and the pinned comment. And it'll also come up on the info box right now. I don't know when I'm going to upload that. I'd probably upload it the same day I upload this, but it might be a few days late if I decide it's really annoying. But that's it. That's really all I wanted to do. I just wanted to see how many saw blade deaths you get on average, and the average is about 2.8, so pretty good. If anybody else wants to do this, go for it. I'm on European servers, so maybe the numbers are different for American or Australian TF2 players. Or maybe you just want to do 100 rounds or something crazy like that. Or you want to try it on a community server. It's your funeral. Just don't haunt me when you inevitably die of fucking boredom. Thank you for watching, if you still are. I'm going to do videos whenever I have an idea, and some of them will be TF2 related. Not all of them. I'm not becoming a TF2 only content creator. I've seen what happens to people when they do that. But anyway, yeah, if you want to see what I'm up to, subscribe. But no matter what you do, bind your shotgun to scroll up. It's genuinely better than pressing a button on your keyboard. I mean, look at this. Yeah. If you want to see what I do next, then please subscribe. I hate to say that. Oh, it's been a long time since I made a YouTube video and asking people to subscribe already.